I've been shooting with a Rokstock for a while, and I recently reviewed the Tricer RP bipod, which you can go watch right here. And because I had this MDT Carbon Stock on my rifle, I had way more questions about whether or not I'd switched stocks, and if so, why, than I did about the actual bipod I was reviewing in the video. So here's the deal. I will tell you if I've switched and why or why not after I give you a complete review of this stock. I've been using this stock for the last 4 months, the entirety of my bear guiding season. I had 4 clients kill bears with this stock with my 6.5 PRC set up inside. Slight incoming tease, the reason the 6.5 PRC isn't in this gun right now is that it's off getting a new barrel. Stay tuned for those details. The MDT Carbon has been available for the Remington 700 inlet for quite some time, but they did not have a Tikka version. MDT hit me up early in the spring, said they had a Tikka one on the way. Would I be interested in using a prototype for testing in the interim? I said I would be ecstatic to do so. They shipped it over. I threw the 6.5 PRC in there, and I've done a ton of testing ever since. Let's start with the specs. This stock retails for $12.99 US. That's naked with no bottom metal. I added the Hunter bottom metal to this for another $300, bringing the price tag up to $15.99. And they also offer a precision bottom metal that's only an additional $280. Naked with no bottom metal, this stock weighs 27 ounces. And with the Hunter bottom metal, it weighs 30 ounces all in. It is foam-filled carbon fiber with a magnesium micro chassis. It has an integrated carbon fiber Arca rail, M-lock slots, and V-block bedding, which means no pillar bedding is required. And one thing I will note is that you can notice on these M-lock slots here, I have added the additional Picatinny rail. And the reason I did that, while most bipods these days will come with either Arca or pick rail attachments, I prefer a pick rail for my bipod because it gives it the additional forward and backward support. This is pure carbon fiber, this Arca rail on the front. And while it is supposed to be very durable and I haven't had any issues with it, you really have to crank down on the Arca attachment so that your bipod doesn't slide forward and backwards due to the recoil. And I just find the Picatinny rail a much more secure attachment for the bipod. Let's get into the fit, the finish, and the ergonomics. It is an MDT product. There is no doubt about it. I think the only thing subpar on this would be the sponge Cerakote job. I think they could probably take the art department skills up a notch. Kind of half kidding, kind of not. Everything else about this has a supremely high quality fit and finish. My Tikka slotted in no problems. I've had other stocks that, doesn't quite go in. You got to shave this, you got to shave that. There was nothing like that with this stock. It dropped right in. The other thing, some stocks, you should be tightening your action screws to about 65 inch-pounds of torque. Some stocks, when you get all the way up to 65, you will start to noticing like a tightening of the action, like the bolt will not slide as freely as it should because it's inducing pressure in inappropriate places on the action itself. I cranked these action screws down to 65 pounds. No problem, super slick bolt throw, everything was great. I don't know the exact specifics of the foam that they use, but it definitely deadens the feel of the gun to a certain degree. My favorite feature about this entire stock, and one of the things that I'm going to be looking for in all my stocks and chassis moving forward, is this notch kind of cut out of the back here. I revamped my shooting position after getting this stock because I realized that I could put my shooting bag under the rear portion, and then I'm able to put my hand on my shooting bag and the stock at the same time And when you're lying prone, the more modern approach is to kind of suck the butt pad into your clavicle, not your shoulder crease. But when I have this sucked into my clavicle, and then I grab the bag and the stock at the same time, it really seems to increase the amount of stability that I have with the gun, and it reduces my wobble zone even more. Now, it also has an adjustable cheek piece that we're gonna talk a little bit later. It comes with length of pull spacers and the stock butt pad. Now, before we get into the flaws of the MDT Carbon and what I had to do to make it work for me, I got a quick update for you guys.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this video is going live on Wednesday morning, which means there's only 3 days left to the ultimate custom guided hunt giveaway from Forged in the Backcountry. So here's the deal. You head on over to forgedinthebackcountry.com, and for every $5 you spend, you will get 1 entry to win a custom guided hunt from Mindful Hunter Outfitting. Now, this is all expenses paid, so you can choose from black bear or mule deer in British Columbia, trophy archery mule deer in Alberta, or rifle coos deer in the rut in Old Mexico. And like I said, this is all expenses paid. So I'm gonna take care of the travel, and I'm gonna take care of any tips that are required. So again, all you gotta do, head on over, forgedinthebackcountry.com. Every $5 you spend is 1 entry to win, only 3 days left. All right, good luck.
So up first, let's address the magazine issues. So the Hunter bottom metal, which is this piece right here, really cool bottom metal because it has this locking pin so that when you have your magazine installed out in the field, when you lock this pin, the release latch won't open and you can't get your magazine out. Push the pin in, trigger the release latch, and your magazine comes right out. Now the issue is, it's not even really so much of an issue, just something to bring up. I believe it is a 2.950 cartridge overall length. So this is a Federal Premium ELDX. Now it's gonna fit in just fine. You've got a little bit of clearance there, so no issues. Now, this is a stock Tikka magazine. It has a slightly longer coal. And so I had built a bunch of bullets. They were fitting in my stock Tikka mags, no problem. They were feeding into my 6.5 PRC that was using a Rokstock at the time, no problem. I went to go use this bottom metal and magazine, and I had to update my loading process. Basically, I just seeded all of the bullets an additional 10 thou deeper into the case. That solved the issue. They loaded just fine. One thing I did note though, I was also testing some Berger EOLs, which is kind of significantly longer than an ELDX or an ELDM or even a TMK. And I had to single feed the EOLs because I would have had to significantly bury them in the case in order to get them to fit in this magazine. Now, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, they do offer a precision bottom metal, which has different magazines and will fit a longer coal hand load if that's something you're looking to get into. Now, personally, I have found the throating to be a little bit short on Tikkas in general anyways. It's not like you're going to be building extremely long rounds no matter what, but if you do want to get a little bit over that 2.950, you may want to go for the precision bottom metal or just check your hand loads and make sure that they work with these Hunter bottom metals. Because other than the length issue, the system works really nicely. Up next, the cheek riser screws. So here's the screws for the cheek riser. Now, they have specifically left them hand adjustable so that you can make infield adjustments. What a lot of people don't realize is that your shooting position will change your cheek weld on the stock. For example, typically when you're prone, because you're out over the gun, you need a longer length of pull, which will change your cheek weld. And then when you move to like a seated position, you don't need as long of a length of pull, and it will change again. So being able to just open these up, tighten that down, takes 2 seconds out in the field, You think that would be fantastic. The problem is these screws come loose on me quite often. I will load this up in my gun case. I'll drive around. I'll go to the gun range. I'll open my gun case. These will be like this, and this will be like lying over here in the side of my gun case. I'll be walking around. I'll have my gun on my pack, and then I'll go take the gun off my pack, and this will slide out because these thumb screws got loose. I don't know if maybe I should put like a little bit of Loctite on here, or even maybe just like one little strand of pipe dope just to give those threads a bit more of a bite. But I was surprised. I don't know if that's like a designing or a machining tolerance. Also, in full transparency, like I mentioned, this was one of the earlier prototype versions. Maybe this is fixed in the final release. If you own one of these of the final release and this is not an issue, maybe drop a note in the comments below. Now, the final thing I want to talk about that you've probably clearly noticed since the beginning of this is the position of this butt pad. So when I first got set up in this rifle, I noticed that my groups opened up a little bit in comparison to the Rokstock that I was using. Now, a Rokstock has a natural negative comb, which results in an overbore butt pad placement, which means your butt pad is above your bore. If you move the butt pad below the bore and your gun explodes, the recoil causes the barrel to lift. When you take that butt pad and move it up, or move the whole stock up in a negative comb stock, what happens is when the recoil, the gun just comes straight back, and it significantly reduces barrel lift, which in turn will decrease your dispersion or narrow your cone of fire. I bought this 3D printed part for like $40 off of Zeroed In Outdoors. You use it with the factory length of pull spacers. Nothing needs to be modified. And essentially what it does, with no modifications whatsoever, is move the placement of your butt pad up 1 inch. I did that and I noticed a significant reduction in barrel lift and just overall better shooter ergonomics. Again, we talked about this earlier, but when you're lying prone, you want to bury it in your clavicle, not your shoulder crease. But when this lines up here and then I drop my face onto the cheek weld, I just get a much better natural sight picture. When I experience recoil, it now, because I'm not supporting it at the bottom, causing it to go up, I'm supporting it at the top, causing it to come back and into me. Just overall, I get better recoil management. All right, so here's the part you've all been waiting for. Have I switched from the Rokstock to the MDT? First of all, let me just address a general concept. I test gear for a living. If I could just stop testing once I found the gear that I was happy with, I would have had a complete setup 5 years ago and never tested and reviewed any of the stuff you've seen over the last 5 years. So just because you see me using something does not mean I am dissatisfied with whatever previous product I was using to accomplish that same goal. Now, before we even get into a comparison, I got to address the elephant in the room. This thing goes for $1,600 with a bottom metal. This thing is like $600 and you can use a Tikka factory bottom metal. The MDT Carbon is almost 3 times more expensive. You could buy almost 3 Rokstocks for one MDT. So to do a head-to-head comparison of these two products is like ridiculous. It would be like comparing a Lamborghini to a 2019 F350 diesel. Both products have their strong points and I would love to own both, but they're different tools for different jobs. And so right out of the gate, I'm gonna tell you that with products that have such a stark difference in price, there is no perfect head-to-head comparison. However, when we get into fit and finish, MDT wins. Stocky Stocks, who manufactures the Rokstocks, are a decent stock manufacturer, but they do not manufacture to the tolerances that MDT does. Physical design, this is a big toss-up for me. The negative comb, overbore design of the Rokstock fundamentally changes how you shoot. And I had to modify the MDT to get it to even close the shootability of the Rokstock, but the notch out of the MDT is what got me to fall in love with this kind of new shooting setup. In reality, if I could merge these two as far as their physical construction goes, or if I had a Rokstock that had a notch out of the bottom, that would be as close to a perfect stock as you could get. Now for weight, the MDT is going to win. It's coming in at about 5 ounces lighter. For recoil management, I got to give the nod to the Rokstock because of its inherent overbore negative comb design. You don't need to add any third-party pieces to it, and it handles recoil extremely well. So listen, I wish I had a clearer answer for you. I like both of these stocks. I would say that for the majority of the people, Rokstock might be a better solution only because of the price. I think when you update the MDT with the zeroed in outdoors butt pad, you get basically the same shootability, but you have the additional benefit of being 5 ounces lighter and having the notch out of the bottom. However, you still don't have the negative comb of the Rokstock. So I'm gonna have to leave this one undecided. My answer has been to just build multiple rifles. Then I can have a rifle in a Rokstock and a rifle in the MDT Carbon, and then based on the situation, I'll choose which one I'm gonna use.